Hey, good afternoon. My name is Jo Niehaus. We can get this rulemaking public hearing started. Just wanting to make sure, is my audio coming through okay? If folks on the call can give me an indication in the chat.
Yes, you sound good.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, just making sure everything is up and going. Okay. Welcome to this public hearing where we will present to you our procurement and contracting rule changes. My name is Jo Niehaus and I'm the Senior Policy Advisor for Oregon Parks and Recreation Department working on this rule. I will spend the first part of this meeting going over the rule background, issues, challenges, input, and the content, and then we'll get into the public hearing session. Each registered commenter will have up to 3 minutes to give their testimony, and I'll go over the details and instructions when we get to that portion. Public comment is open now until August 31st. So let's get started. The background for this rule really revolves around the main Oregon Public Contracting Code and our agency's exemption from it. So this past legislative session, Senate Bill 838 passed, giving the agency exemptions from the rest of what the other state agencies mainly use when it comes to procurement and contracting. This will allow the state park system to procure and contract goods and services that better suit the unique 24/7 hospitality style needs and the resource management for the agency. Oregon Revised Statutes 279 A, B, and C are where the public contracting rules are outlined, and it also requires that the state agencies use this e-procurement system called Oregon Buys. So with this exemption, it would mean that Oregon Parks and Recreation Department would not be subject to use only Oregon Buys for its procurement, and then that the agency could come up with its own threshold limitations and processes. So this could be effective as early as October 1st if the rule changes are adopted by the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department Commission and filed with the state. The need for this rulemaking really arose from looking at the current issues and challenges that we faced as an agency as we followed the state procurement code. It is very difficult to work with small and local businesses, especially in rural areas. Of Oregon's 250 plus parks, many of them are located in communities without a lot of services and far from metro centers. So having to work with state procured larger out of state contracts that often subcontract with more local workers. It also created sort of a middleman type of service where the local small businesses were doing the same type of services but getting paid less and costing the state more. So one of the other issues that the agency faced was when the state shifted to the e-procurement system, Oregon Buys, a few years ago. Many of those smaller retailers and businesses and contractors struggled on the platform, and it required a lot more red tape than it had in the past. The agency structure, with it being decentralized and interfacing with lots of local partners and different communities, really needed contracts and services where folks could respond quickly to the park needs. So, for example, if there was a plumbing issue that happened in the middle of the night, it was not reasonable for the agency to wait for a larger contract with the state to help answer this type of plumbing issue when it needed to be resolved immediately for the campers and visitors on site. Some of the other examples that we faced were hazard tree operations and anywhere where really we're trying to work most efficiently with local providers. While there was not a rule advisory committee created for these rule amendments, there were a lot of discussions. Much of the necessary discussion was held through the Senate bill, testimonies and debates. Before the changes were drafted, agency staff reached out to other state agencies who also have those procurement and contracting exemptions so that we could learn and understand what those other processes contained and any lessons that they could share. There was also an internal feedback survey to all staff to review the changes that could be implementable and any issues or challenges that they could see. Additionally, we will have a Department of Justice review of the rules before the rules are filed. The case for responsible flexibility is really the underlying dedication here for this rule. The agency must be aggressively transparent and accountable. So this type of exemption from the Oregon Contracting Code is rare and it requires a lot of transparency and accountability. And the agency is committed to that, to being transparent, ethical, accessible, and responsive throughout all of its processes and to have a procurement process that aligns. This is the content section of the presentation. Here are the current changes on the left, and in the blue boxes that you see there are the proposed changes. So the main proposed changes center around 4 themes. For the full rule details, you can review the proposed draft rule language and its marked copy on the proposed rule webpage. I will share that link and a QR code for it at the end of this presentation. There are parts of the Oregon Public Contracting Code that the agency may still follow and will be able to opt in for certain procurement situations. So that's been very clearly outlined. And the exemption itself does not extend to surplus property. And processes like photogrammetric mapping or telecommunications procurement will still need the State Enterprise Information Systems project approval. So those are also listed as the types of exceptions that are outlined in the proposed rule language. Much of these rules had to be updated since they had not been done so since before the agency moved over to the e-procurement system. And the language was very outdated. So we use this opportunity to help clean that up as well. And additionally, we define the different procurement types, thresholds, and then those processes associated with each of those. Here's our proposed timeline. Our rules are currently open for public comment and will be until the end of the month. Then the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department Commission will meet September 17th, and the rule could be adopted then. Once that's adopted, the agency will launch training for all staff and create resources for implementation. If we go back a little bit, the rule drafting and the proposed language started back in June as we were following along the Senate bill timeline, and as it was also going through its own processes, we were thinking ahead to making sure that we were able to get these proposed rules done with enough time for review and for public comment before it made its way to the commission. Okay, we are now on to the portion for public hearing. I'm just going to check real quick to see if our registered folks who wanted to give public testimony are on. And it does not look like they are. Okay, so since we don't have anyone here to give testimony, we will reiterate that they can give us testimony through written or they could write their testimony and send it in to a physical address. They could type it up and send it to us online or send us an email. So on this slide here, you can see the different options for doing so until August 31st. There is a bit.ly. It's shortened to OPRD contracting rules. And that QR code is also available if anybody would like to use their phones to scan that code. I don't think I need to read the script since we are not actually having any testimony at this time, but this is still available if anyone is watching on YouTube as we are live streaming, or watching this recording later. You have until August 31st, 2025, 5 p.m. to send us your public comments. Thank you.